Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Sheldon, episode 52. We got a good lineup ahead of uh, UFC Vegas, 38 now, which is a really good card. So, first up, we're joined by one half of the main event in Johnny Walker to preview his fight against Thiago Santos. This is a really good fight for the light heavyweight division. It really should be a very fan friendly fight. Both these guys, knockout artists, both these guys going to come forward and look for that knockout. Spoke Johnny about this, how I think he matches up against Thiago and what he kind of makes of Thiago. Thiago's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to John Jones by split. Then he had the double knee surgery, lost to Glover by submission, and then he lost to Alexander Rakic in a very lackluster fight. But Johnny thinks Thiago still is about as tough as they come, and he knows a win over Thiago puts him right in the mix for a title shot at light heavyweight. Next, we're going to be joined by Jared Gordon to preview his fight against Joe Solecki. Jared's moving back up to 55. He had two fights at 45. At the second one, he missed weight in. He basically said the UFC forced him to move up, so that's why he's fighting Joe Solecki now at lightweight. Kind of talked about how he matched up against him. Joe's a guy he knows quite well just because they both fought in CFFC. He kind of watched that promotion a lot just to kind of see who's coming up in that promotion. And the final guest of the show is actually Joe Solecki. So we get both sides of this fight. So really good chat with Joe about how he matches up against Jared and what he thinks a win over Jared does for him. He's undefeated in the UFC. He's coming off win over Jim Miller. If he can beat Jared Gordon, like a top 15 guy who could possibly be next for him at lightweight. It's a really good chat with Joe. Really good chat with all three. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC light heavyweight Johnny Walker, who's headlining a show upcoming. Johnny, how's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. First UFC main event. Like when you got the call to be headlining the show, like what kind of went through your head?
It's just very happy because, all of the hard work that's been put along my career is just, it's coming now. So my first main event, not the last one. And I'm so happy. I'm glad to be here. And I'm just delighted, like very, very happy.
You were obviously supposed to fight in March. You end up getting injured. Like when did you kind of fully become healthy that you could train 100% again?
Yeah, it took like 6 months, right? To come back. Yeah, the surgery was 6 months ago.
February?
For February. How long ago?
7 months ago.
7 months ago. So I've been with a lot of work, strength conditioning, physiotherapy, like every day, every week. This physiotherapies and change the exercise and like so much work. And now I'm 100% and ready to go.
And getting Thiago Santos, like was this someone you had your eye on, or was it just who the UFC offered you?
Uh UFC just offered me, and I'm really glad that he's a legend in Brazil already, and he's a top five uh, opponent, and I'm just happy. It's a big opportunity for me, and I'm really happy to have this match.
What have you made of his recent run? Because he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but he's only been fighting the top guys at light heavyweight.
Yeah, this is good. So I don't mind about he his three lost. Like he fights for the belt. He fight against Jones. He gave hard time for every fight that he fought already, and like it's a good test for me. So I'm happy and ready to him.
Going 5 rounds too, like is this something you think you're finally ready to go, or is this something you could have done a while back?
I never fought 5 rounds, but this competition is being amazing, and everything that I'm do it's 5 times 5 minutes, so I'm ready as well. My cardio is good, strength conditioning was good, my conditioning, all of the technique, heart, and it's just been everything amazing. Like I'm injury free as well, so I'm ready to go 5 rounds if I need.
I know Brazilians sometimes don't like fighting fellow Brazilians. Was there ever hesitant for you or Thiago to face each other?
Yeah, I prefer fight against any other fighters in the world, but we fight the guy from the same country, same nationality. It's just a little bit weird. It's a little bit like it's not weird. It's just happen. It's just a job. I don't really mind. Like it means that we are on the top 10. Like I think every top 10, most of the top 10 have a Brazilian fighter or girl. And this is means that we Brazilian have really good level, and we are on top 10 of any division. So I'm glad, and I know I have to face some Brazilian endpoint. So I'm just happy because this is the job. I see it like a job, I have no rivalry against nobody, but it is what it is.
Stylistically, how do you think you match up against Thiago?
I'm very unpredictable, and I'm good on the floor, on striking. I have good jiu-jitsu, everything, and but I like strike. I like stand-up game, and he's a really good striker. So he probably think he's black belt, but he's a good striker as well. So it's gonna be fight work on this fight, and I'm ready to go.
Do you think this fight will hit the ground at any point, or do you think it's just gonna be kind of a kickboxing fight?
I'm fighting MMA, bro. I can take him down. He can try to take me down. Everything can happen on this level. We supposed to know and do everything. So whatever it takes, I'm ready to play whatever he wants. But I'm gonna put my game on top of this.
Thiago's obviously known for his leg kicks. Like, how have you kind of been preparing for those?
Say it again.
Thiago's like known for his leg kicks. Like, how have you been preparing for those?
He's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna block or escape. Like if he really good and kick too strong, if I blocked his kick properly, I broke his leg or his feet. So let's go. Let him try.
How do you see yourself winning this fight?
Bro, I don't wanna let the fight on the half round. I wanna or submit him or knock him out, but I wanna finish. But if you take 5 rounds, okay, good. We ready to go. But I wanna try to finish the fight since the first minute until the last one.
Are you disappointed this fight's just at the Apex and not in front of fans?
Oh, of course, I'm the kind of the fighter that like to fight for the fans. Like I feel the energy, I send them energy back, and I would like to make the crowd excited to watch. But this fucking COVID situation make this happen. So we just have to accept and keep going.
Where do you think a win over Thiago puts you in the division? Because you'd be right up there in the top 5.
I hope put me on the top 5 and give me 1 or 2 more big fights than the title shot soon next year. I hope.
Is that kind of the goal for you? Is title shot next year?
Yeah. I'm ready for this deep water now. And this is my first main event with 5 rounds, so just gonna give me a lot of experience. So this fight and 2 more gonna make me ready for the title shot.
I know you're out in Ireland. How has training been out there at SBG?
It's amazing. John Kavanagh is a really good coach, and he helped me with everything. He provided everything that I need, like box coach, strength conditioning, any kind of problem that I have. He know how to solve, and he was great coach and teach me the good things that really work. So I'm really happy that I'm here. I make one of the best come train in my life, and I'm gonna smash this guy.
How much better do you think you've gotten? Like more well-rounded since going out there?
I feel like I'm a whiskey. As much older I get better. So I'm not old yet. I'm 29, but more experience, and now is my big window. It's just open. Of my prime. I'm young and I have a lot of experience. So now is my prime. So we'll just start my prime. So the light heavyweight division have to be very careful because I come to take over.
A lot of people call you out. Like, if you get your hand raised here, like, do you kind of plan on calling anyone out?
Of course, I'm gonna call maybe Jimmy Prokanska. If you want to transmit win tomorrow, I can call him as well. I want to fight you one more time at the end of this year, and I hope this can happen. And then next year is gonna be my race for the championship.
The light heavyweight title fight's just a few weeks after you. Like, who do you kind of think wins that fight?
I believe, and I'm sharing for Glover Teixeira. He's a veteran, and he deserves because he was on this game for so long. He's a veteran. I think he should get this win because he just deserves a really cool guy. And at the end of his career now, like he's just 42, is very old to keep trying. It's his last chance. I think he put so much work for this fight, and I think he's gonna beat the champ.
Jimmy Crute kind of said a lot about you after you pulled out. Like, where did that all kind of come from?
I have no idea who's Jimmy Crute.
You were supposed to fight him in March.
Oh yeah, I don't fight him. So
With John Kavanagh, like he's a really good game planner. Like how much has that helped with you kind of having a game plan heading into a fight?
yeah, we watched Thiago fight, and we really be very careful with all of the detail. We see all of the strong weapon that he have. We drill a lot of the technique that he do usually do on his fight. Against him, what I should do. So we replicate everything on the train, and have been so amazing. I'm ready for anything that Thiago have to show, but I don't think he have new things. He's not this kind of fighter. He's all of these fighters that have the same pattern, and I learn everything. Like I know when he blink, I know when he walk back, I know when he gonna kick. So I'm ready for him.
Are you living in Ireland full time, or do you just head out there for your training camps?
No, I live here now on full time, and probably gonna live here very long because my fiance is an Irish girl, and I have to be here now.
Yeah. You like Ireland better than Brazil, or you still like Brazil?
I love Brazil. I miss so much the weather. I'm gonna come to Brazil after this fight. I'm gonna bring my fiance to know my family, and I'm gonna spend maybe 1 2 weeks there and come back straight away to train because I wanna fight soon again, maybe the end of December, as I said. So just go there, relax a little bit, take a little bit of the sun, take a little tan, and come back to the cold again because it's gonna be cold here at the end of the year.
Just last thing, you get your hand raised. Are you gonna do any celebration? Or is it back to just the Zen in the middle of the octagon?
I celebrate, bro. So much hard work done, but I'm gonna do a safe one this time.
Yeah, you learn from the mistake.
Of course, I don't want another surgery, but surgery's no good.
Well, Johnny, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're my friend. Take care.
All right, we're joined by UFC lightweight now, I guess. Again, Jared Gordon. Jared, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. That's kind of the first thing I want to touch on. You dropped down to featherweight your past two fights. I know you came in heavy last time. Like, is moving back up to lightweight? Is this something that basically the UFC told you they wanted?
Yeah, they were like, "You gotta move back up." I was like, "All right." I'm like,
So
"Whatever."
you didn't have much of a choice then.
No, there was no like, please. It was just like, you gotta move up.
Is that something you tried to talk them out of? Because I know when we talked, like you thought featherweight is where you'd be at your best because you just don't think you were big enough.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to stay down there, but it's not what the world wanted for me or the universe. So,
is that something you're still open to in the future? Is another drop down, or do you think it's lightweight now? From now on, just trying to add more size.
If it's worth it, I would do it. But for now, for the foreseeable future, it looks like it's going to be lightweight.
And fighting early October, like it's like 8 months after your last fight, roughly. Like, is this a lot later than what you kind of expected to get back in there?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to fight earlier. I did have a couple injuries, nothing crazy, but definitely stuff that would have stopped me from fighting. But it is what it is, and hopefully now that I'm at lightweight, I could also take, fights sooner, faster.
Are you trying to like add any more size? Or are you just gonna fight at what you're at, so you can kind of take those short notice fights?
I mean, I saw someone that I haven't seen in a while the other day, and they're like, "Man, you're huge," and I was like, "What?" I'm like super skinny. I'm like, I'm lean right now. I fight in a week and a half, so I'm really low. I'm actually lower than I've ever been for 55 going into fight week. But I think I filled out. I guess I'm assuming I filled out because people are telling me I look, I guess, just more muscular. But no, like I'm not necessarily wanting to get bigger, but faster, stronger. Yeah, not necessarily bigger though.
Is that an advantage you think you'll have at lightweight? Is your speed?
I mean, they call me Flash, but I'm not the fastest guy ever. But I think like when I get smaller, I definitely move a lot better. and I think I could be a little quicker and scramble and transition in certain scenarios better than bigger guys. But I don't know. I mean, most of my fights were at 55. So, not only, before UFC, it was all 55, basically, besides like one or two fights. So, I don't really know. I think 45 and 55 is pretty similar as far as speed. Just, guys are obviously a little bigger at 55.
Your opponent, Joe Solecki, like, how much do you know about him?
I've watched his fights. We actually came up in the same organization, CFFC. He's a great grappler. That's where he likes to bring all the fights. Or he's a submission specialist. And I don't think he necessarily wants to like trade too much. He likes to, get you to the cage or get you down and then work from there. Which great. It's effective. It's great strategy. He's a tough kid. But besides that, I think he's from like Jersey or Pennsylvania, and he lives in North or South Carolina, and that's where he trains. So, but yeah, I mean, I watch his fights, and I've been watching him for a while because I've watched him come up in CFFC and get into UFC, and obviously, I watched before I knew I was fighting him. He fought Jim Miller. I watched that fight. I watched his other fights live. So yeah, I've known of Joe for a little while now.
I know you kind of like to implement your wrestling, but is this a fight where you think most of the game plan is to try to stand up just because you don't want to go to the ground with them, or do you think this fight's probably going to hit the ground?
I mean, I would imagine it's probably going to hit the ground sooner or later. I mean, I would definitely like to hurt him on the feet. I think everyone that goes into a cage fight probably thinks the same thing. Yeah, I would like to knock him out. I think that he's going to be looking to bring it down to the floor like faster than maybe I would, or I will be. But I'm more than happy to grapple. I mean, we're different kinds of grapplers. He's more of a submission guy, and I'm more of a ground and pound guy. So it's going to be interesting to see, where we match up against each other.
Well, what do you think a win over Joe does for you? Because this is obviously back up to lightweight now.
I mean, I think it's a pretty big win for me. Probably my highest profile fight to date, except when I fought Oliveira. That was short notice, whatever. He was ranked. But, Joe's on a 3-fight winning streak, and he just beat a legend in Jim Miller. So, it's a big feather in my cap. I think it shows that, when I win that I'm a contender,
Planning on calling anyone out, or is you just kind of leave it to what the UFC kind of
do? Yeah, I am actually. But I don't want to say it just yet.
Yeah, you got to save it for after. That's the whole point of the post-fight speech.
Yeah, for sure.
But training in Florida still, who are the main guys you work with at Stanford? Because there's a lot of high-level grapplers, especially there.
With monsters. Throughout camp, a lot of my training partners were, Saul Rogers, who just beat Georgie Karakarian. Chris Ojagos, I was training a lot with. He fought Arman, unfortunately lost, but he's a monster. Christos, super underrated. I've been training a lot with Andre Harrison, Tofik Musiev. He was the Ryzen 155-pound champ. Ludovic Klein. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, who's monster.
Monster, yeah. Savage. I mean, I'm rolling with Gilbert Burns today. I wrestled with Gilbert for the whole wrestling class. So, I mean, there's Chad Skelly, and there's so many other guys. There's so many people down here that it's hard to remember everyone, But it's nothing but monsters. Everyone's good. Everyone has their own style. And I get different looks from, the guys I just named, they're all different. And they're all really high level. But yeah, those have been most of my training partners. And it's just, we have some of the best coaches in the world, I believe. So it's been great.
And if you're rolling with Gilbert Burns, I don't really think Joe Solecki's is better of a grappler than what Gilbert is, especially the size too. So that's really good luck for the fight.
It's like wrestling with the bear. But yeah, I mean, just because I'm rolling with Gilbert doesn't mean anything. Like
Yeah.
Joe's his own guy, and he's great at what he does. So obviously, just because I train with good guys means I'm underestimating anyone. Obviously, I'm not. But yeah, I'm super excited to test my skills against Joe, for sure. I'm really excited.
How do you kind of see the fight playing out?
I mean, I'm going to try to make it as dirty as possible. I want to make it dirty and bloody, and I don't want it to be like a stalled out grappling match, because it seems that's how Joe likes to fight. He likes to slow things down, which is, I have nothing against that. It works. If you're a great grappler and you can slow it down and take guys down and control them, and that's how you win fights. I mean, that's how he's won his first 3, besides the submission. I'm not sure if he's got 2 or 1 submissions in UFC, but that's what he's done to a lot of his opponents. So I think I gotta, weather the storm, make it gritty, move, get him tired, get him flustered, and obviously try to hurt him.
A bit disappointed you're just at the Apex. They can't put you on one of these pay-per-views in front of fans.
I'm super salty because of Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I was born in Manhattan. I was raised in Queens. My grandfather fought in Madison Square Garden. So it's for me, I'm like, I should be fighting in Madison Square Garden, but I haven't got that chance. This year, I wouldn't have been able to fight there anyways, because I'm getting married October 29th, and I'm going on my honeymoon November 2nd. So it wouldn't have happened anyways. So I'll have to wait for the next one. But you know what? The way I look at it, I'm like, if I were to fight in Madison Square Garden now, I'd probably be on the early prelims, or maybe the middle prelim card. And I'll have to wait till I'm on the on the main card or the main event to fight in Madison Square Garden. Then I'll really fulfill what I believe my destiny is.
So with you getting married and honeymoon, like, is this the last fight for you this year? Are you hoping maybe you can squeeze one more in after that?
I mean, so I get married October 29th. That's going to be a crazy week. Going away for a week to St. Lucia, November 2nd. So basically, November's like half gone, at least, Get back in the swing of things. And then December. So I would imagine it's probably, unless I get like some crazy offer and I'm able to make weight safely and, in a smart way, then I would imagine early next year is when I'll be back in there.
Is the benefit too, though, of lightweight is maybe something big comes up in December that you can kind of jump out, so you don't really have to worry with the weight?
100%. I mean, I've been walking around in the low 70s for a while now, so I don't see myself like rebounding higher than that. So, in a week's notice, I could potentially make 55 and feel good, or feel decent. So, I mean, I planned on staying low and being able to take fights on short notice. It seems like it's kind of far and few between now, the short notice fights. Like, COVID is, people are kind of getting smarter, and seems like there's less COVID this or other problems where guys are just filling in. I mean, you got this Dan Hooker thing that just happened, but that was like, once in a blue moon where something like that happens. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get in there if I can do it, on short notice.
Just 2 more things. I know one of your old teammates is now your new teammate. What's it like having Brendan Allen down there in Florida back with you?
Oh, Brendan's like my big little brother, I cornered him in his Contender Series fight. I cornered him in a couple LFA fights. We've been training together for a while, and he's on a roll right now, but he's a great person. He's a good human, family man, and it's good having him here. But there's so many guys here that I used to train with. Andre Harrison, Phil Hawes. I used to train with Phil Hawes at Henzo. It was like 7 years ago, I was training with Phil. A while ago. I met Phil actually in New Mexico like almost 10 years ago, I guess, 8 years ago. And there's always guys that come through that I've known. So it's great. It's like Sanford's like a family, huge family.
Do you ever go out back to Milwaukee, or are you always in Florida?
I have not gone back, not for any because I'm not friends with anyone anymore. But those are still my guys. Duke, still my guy. Scott Cush, still my guy. I constantly text with Duke, and he was always there for me. He actually really propelled my game in certain ways. But my fiance was living in Florida. Just made sense for me to be down here. I was, just way more convenient. And Sanford's a better match for me as far as my style of fighting. So I have not gone back. Plus, Milwaukee is just not for me, man.
Well, you look at the lifestyle. I'd rather be on a beach in Florida than up in Milwaukee.
I'm literally looking at the ocean from my bedroom window. So, I mean, Milwaukee, I was looking at the snow,
Just last thing, it seems like Oliveira Poirier is gonna happen. Who do you kind of see winning that one? Just because you fought Charles before.
It's a really, really tough fight for both guys. And I think Oliveira's a different person now than he was, at least at 45. I think Oliveira is the more well-rounded fighter as far as grappling goes. Obviously, his striking has been on point in his last bunch of fights. I don't care who wins. I would like to see Charles win just because he's going to win over me. At least I could say, all right, well, I lost to the champion. I already have that. But I lost to a guy that was able to defend the belt. But I'm going for Oliveira. I love Dustin too. He's a great guy, amazing fighter. I think Oliveira on paper is the better fighter though.
And his run was crazy because for fights on, he was just always considered that quitter from when he lost to Holloway, and even the last fight against Chandler, he kind of proved that he can survive that onslaught and come back. So he's tough to beat at lightweight.
Yeah, definitely. And he's older now. He was like a child then, literally. He was in his early 20s. I think in this sport, until you're 28, 29, 30, you really mature into your body, it's different when you're, 32 years old and you're fighting a 21-year-old. It's kind of when I look at Brunson and Shabazian.
Yeah.
It's just a different animal, beast, someone that's so savvy, and just been in the game forever. So I think, he's got how many fights does he have in UFC now? 25, 30, Oliveira, something like that?
Yeah, he'd be up there. He got in when he was 20 or 21.
Yeah,
he got into the UFC.
He's matured big time. So
yeah, his UFC debut was August 1st, 2010. So that's crazy.
I made my pro debut in 2011.
Yeah, so he's been in the UFC longer than you've been fighting, and he's still only 31.
Well, I always thought I was an amateur, but he made his UFC. You said pro or UFC?
UFC debut, August 2010.
Yeah, so
and he's only 31 right now.
The amount of experience is just ridiculous,
All right, well, Jared, though, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much. All right, we're joined by UFC lightweight Joe Solecki, who's back in action here pretty soon. Joe, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, fighting Jared Gordon, were you surprised this is your opponent? Because Jared tried that drop back down to featherweight, had 2 fights, but his last fight he missed weight. So, I didn't know if they made force him up. So, were you kind of surprised this is the guy you're fighting?
Not necessarily, because I know he's kind of flirted with both divisions and had good runs at 45 making weight, and then sometimes didn't make weight. So I wasn't really shocked when they called with that, but it wasn't somebody I was thinking about. But I learned pretty early on, since the first fight when I got signed, was it's always going to be the person that you're not really harping on. So I try not to go down the roster too much and pick out oh, maybe this is the one. Maybe there's so many guys, and especially me, I'm not anybody, some huge name or anything right now. So there's no telling who they're going to come up with, especially in COVID times when guys are dropping out of fights quickly and guys are getting called up quickly. So, rankings have kind of gone to the wayside. I think the fight makes perfect sense. He's a veteran in the UFC, and but also trying to make his way at 55. I'm making my way at 55. So, I think in hindsight, once I got the name, it makes perfect sense, and something I'm excited about. I came up watching him at CFFC. He was the featherweight champ when I got started. I made my pro debut there. So, again, kind of like the Miller fight, when you start fighting these guys that were, he's obviously a lot younger than that, but that were ahead of you or were, more seasoned vets when you started, and you start catching up with some of these guys, competing with them, always a great thing. Always awesome to see how that comes full circle.
Was this a bit later than you thought you'd return? Because I thought after the Miller fight, especially beat a guy like Jim Miller, I thought they might have tried to book you up sooner than what they did.
Yeah, a little bit, but you know what? It's always kind of a blessing in disguise, I feel like. Staying active is awesome, and it's something I prefer to do. I've always been competing my whole life. In jiu-jitsu, I was competing at least once, twice a month. But, these long breaks, I feel like every time I've come back a much, much better fighter than I left. So, it's never a bad thing, but I would like to, a little more frequently and keep that momentum. But the nice thing is every time I get these long stretches with my coaches, they make sure I come back better than I was. And, the whole mission and the whole goal is to show it on fight night, but I'm 100% certain that I'm way better than I was leaving the cage against Miller.
That time off, how beneficial is it for you? You kind of mentioned there, but especially someone that's still pretty young, into your career. Because whenever I talk to fighters, they said, although it sucks not fighting for a couple months, that's where you get the best, is when you have those month stretches of not fighting. You just get to work on new things all the time.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing is growth at this stage in the game because, for so many different reasons, experience is finally starting to set in for me. Obviously there's guys with more fights. My opponent has more fights. But once you get to a certain point, I feel like that experience starts to cancel out, whether you've had, we saw it with the Miller fight. He's had 37 fights in the UFC, and that was my third, but I was comfortable in the cage, so it didn't really make a difference at that point, But whereas the first or second fight, maybe you get those jitters or you're getting used to the lay of the land and the photos and the lights in your face and all that stuff, which I really feel like was new. But, now that experience is starting to meet and I'm still young enough, with my youth, I think it's a really dangerous thing. It's going to make me a lot better, I think. So, I do think it's a great thing as long as, I'm very lucky to be coming off a couple wins, so it's not like I have to turn around, fight right again, and be like, I need that next paycheck, or I'm not going to make the rent, or something like that. So I'm super fortunate to have come off a couple wins where now I can really, I don't have to rush it along like I'm on the regional scene. I can treat it like it's a career and invest back in myself and my training. And, if it is 6 or 7 months, so we're okay, and use that time to actually develop as an athlete. I think that's when it starts to be treated more like a professional sport. When you start getting a couple more fights in the UFC. Now I feel like I can take that time and actually, progress my training and not just be on this crazy warpath to try to get signed or try to get the first few fights out of the way. It's like I'm starting to settle in, which is really nice.
How do you kind of see this fight playing out between you and Jared? Because Jared's obviously a really good grappler. He just a strong wrestler, good stand-up, but all of his losses have come by knockouts. He is there to be hit, I guess.
Yeah, he's a super tough guy, and I feel like I've had this string of guys that I've fought, especially with Hubbard and Jim Miller, where they're kind of everybody in this division is super tough. 155, 145 as well. You're getting, super tough guys everywhere you go, even in the bottom half of the division. So, no shocker there, but they have been these grind type fighters. But the thing is, I think maybe when I came into the UFC, or especially in the Contender Series and some of my early regional fights, I was like that finesse finisher, oh, he's going to snatch your neck up, or, not, and then you're going to, I think that's what people thought, and I've kind of proved that I'm kind of a grinder as well, so I think it could be one of those gritty, grinded out type fights, those always mean essential for fight of the night as well, but, we're always looking to come forward, be aggressive on the feet, be aggressive on the ground, so I think that could be a really dynamic, tough fight, and for me, what it always boils down to, but especially with somebody like Jared, is I've got to be checked in for 15 minutes and I fight for every position, every single, inch of real estate in the cage, on the footwork and the stand up, and same thing on the wall work, the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. Because he's a guy, if he takes a little bit, he'll try to run a fight. He'll get that momentum and kind of keep carrying it forward. So we're ready to stand our ground and fight tooth and nail and get my hand raised after 15 minutes. That's kind of how I always play for. So is fight as hard as possibly can, 15 minutes. But if I can crack that chin, if I can snatch a neck up, if I can take a position and unload some punches and look for the finish, I'm always going to try to do that. But mentally and the preparation, I like sparring. When I spar, if I submit somebody, we're standing back up and we're going to keep going. So it's a 15-minute endeavor in my mind.
What do you think a win over Jared does for you in Putzin's division? Because if you look at Jared, like he's fought a lot of tough guys. Like the only guys to beat in the UFC are Diego Ferreira, who's a top 10, 15 guy lightweight, Charles Oliveira, the champ, and then Joaquim Silva. That's a fight Jared was winning, and he like tore his hamstring, then ended up just getting knocked out because he really couldn't stand. But like those 2 wins, like only top guys been able to beat him.
Yeah, I think that's just the caliber of opponent that he is. He's a dangerous seasoned vet, and even on the regional scene, when he was fighting at CFFC and I was fighting there, he was fighting all the toughest guys, title defenses and whatnot. Everyone was coming for that title because that's like a golden ticket to UFC. So, yeah, I think that's a testament to how durable he is. You really can't take those 2 losses where he got finished because those are 2 of the very best in the division and in the world. So, Charles Oliveira is wearing a gold belt around his waist right now. So, I really can't go comparing to them or to, or even putting too much stock in it saying they're the only ones that finished them or might be, because at the end of the day, we have to fight October 2nd. And, when you look at, only I can relate it to me and my fights that I've had is like with Hubbard, he went the distance with Davi Ramos, who on paper is a more credentialed grappler than I am, and Mark Madsen, who's been Olympics 3 times. And I was somehow able to finish from the first round. It's just MMA math is crazy. So while we look into it and say, oh, well, that proves he's able to be finished, but you have to look at it and say, well, that guy's world champion, the other guy's, top 7 or top 8, like you said. So I don't put too much stock into it. I just know that anytime he's getting to share the cage with guys like that, that's going to make his confidence grow too, because he's been to the top of the mountain there, top heap. So I just got to worry about me, clock in, and be ready to try to duplicate those results on the night that we fight.
Are you hoping maybe a top 15 guy comes with a win, or do you still think you might be one more win away from that?
I'm really not concerned about it. Like I said, going into the Jim Miller fight everyone was kind of saying the same thing. Like, what is this going to mean? And when you beat him and all that stuff and in the big picture, I kind of just gave the same answer. And I feel like that with this fight as well is I don't really care what it means to everybody else or in terms of rankings or in terms of notoriety, because at the end of the day, like I people thought beating Miller would for me, and it really didn't, because it wasn't the most exciting fight. So some people were actually unhappy with the fight, and I can't control any of that. So what I always, go off of is it's going to me, because like Jim was a legend and somebody I grew up watching. This is somebody that was a little bit ahead of me at CFFC. I'm catching these guys, and catching up to where I wanted to be, and it means a lot to me and my family. If I keep going out there and I keep winning, great things are going to happen. Bigger fights will come, and more money is going to come, and that's all I'm trying to do is come out here and show every time that my coaches are putting the effort in, Tate's putting the effort in, and provide for my family. If I do that, one day I may just be wearing a belt around my waist or fighting for a title or in the top 5 or all those things that come with that. But I'm not harping on that right now. I'm harping on the 15 minutes that I have put in on October 2nd, which, in my mind, we're in the middle of camp right now, thinking about it. And in my mind, I've got to prepare for a living hell for 15 minutes. And then there's nothing on the other side of that until, one of us is getting hand raised and we carry on with life when we go home. But until then, I'm really just thinking about that 15 minutes that I have to push through and put a pace on it.
Are you hoping maybe one more this year? Like, I know you have the kids, so like I assume you probably don't want to fight around Christmas time and the holidays, but are you hoping one more in this year?
Like I said, it's kind of a fight. God willing, we're healthy and we're back home, and I'll be back in the gym that week. So, win, lose, or draw, I'm always back in the gym that week in some capacity. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I like to stay active. So, take it one by one, and anytime I'm healthy and they call, I'm pretty much going to answer the call. It's kind of how my coaches have trained me to be, and how I've kind of always been with jiu-jitsu and stuff. When I get on a tournament, I look online and find the next one. It's kind of keep going that way. And this is the same thing. So yeah, I think one more before the end of the year would be awesome. If not, right in the new year would be great. But again, I can't really control it, but I'm pretty disciplined all year long. Even out of camp, I'm doing my conditioning, and I spar every single week because we got other teammates getting ready for stuff. So all I ever really need is a 3-week window just to maybe peak and get the weight down just a smidge. But even when it comes to Christmas and stuff, if it's not my scheduled cheat day, I'm not going to be cheating on my diet. I'm not going to be gaining a ton of weight. So, especially in these crazy times, this is the time to be opportunistic. So I'll be staying ready regardless.
I know most contracts, especially the Contender Series ones, runs 4 fights. Have you already re-upped? Like, are you already on your second deal with the UFC?
Yeah, I am. I was super fortunate after the last fight. I signed my second contract, which was awesome. Couldn't be any happier with that. So it was great. Really, really excited. And another 4 fights. So, nothing's guaranteed. There's always that clause, to be honest. It's like we have the right to cut you either after any loss or at any time or something like that. So, there's no more security with that, but it's nice to get that reward and see that, your hard work's not going unnoticed. So really, really cool. And I got to thank my management for that too. Jason House and everybody at Iridium Sports Agency has been really, really helpful with that too. So, and the UFC. So yeah, I'm super pumped. What's crazy is when I got signed on the Contender Series, I was like, man, if I could just get that first UFC win and be a legit UFC vet, then it was like, well, one's not enough. This, and that. And, oh man, if I could just make it to the second contract. Now it's all here. And it's just going to keep moving goalposts, So it's been really cool. It's flown by. And I'm excited to get this first one, the new deal, going.
Just 2 more things. Are you hoping everything goes your way? Maybe the next fight gets you on a pay-per-view back in front of fans, because this is your 4th UFC fight, 3 in a row with no fans.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I don't care too much. It's nice. I love the actual fight, and that's something that has really, really been. I don't know, dominant in my thoughts and leading into this. Like, I love the pure position of fighting these days. On the regional scene, when you're working your way up, all you're thinking about is getting in front of all these eyes and getting on TV. And I kind of learned early on after my first loss how fair weather promotions can be and followers can be and stuff. But even then, you're still really young in the game, and you're like, man, I want to be the most well-known and all that. And it is really cool. There's no feeling like walking out in front of a huge arena with everybody screaming. It's great adrenaline, and it's a cool memory. Like, I got the one fight in front of the crowd in Washington, D.C., but I love the pure competition. So I really don't care as long as it's going to be me and an opponent. Like I said, if I had said this leading into the last fight, I've always said this. If it was me and Jared have to go into a room with one of our coaches each, and we're going to fight, and we come out and we're sign a non-disclosure and can never know the result, I would still do it. I need to know that I can compete and test myself against this person and get the win. So that's why I do it. So the Apex kind of fits that style for me. But that being said, one of the coolest things about fighting is to travel and go fight in front of all these places and see new places. So that would be cool, because this is my 4th or 5th fight in Vegas now. So yeah, when it comes, but not too concerned about the pay-per-view aspect. Because, gosh, who knows? Who knows when that's going to be?
Just last thing, your coach, John Salter, how's he been? Because he was looking really good against Gegard. Obviously, tough loss, but Gegard, one of the best fighters in the world. What's kind of he been like since that fight?
Man, he's just been back in the gym. He's man. He's like I said, it was humbling for me to watch that whole process. I was sitting cage side, and then being back in the gym and watch that whole process unfold is just seeing how a competitor deals with defeat, and somebody that's that competitive and that hardworking is I don't know why I ever guessed it would be anything other than him being back in the gym that Monday, but it was him being back in the gym that Monday, because Sunday he got home, we were hanging out, and I was like, hey, if you need to take a couple days, I'll cover class tomorrow. He looked at me like I was nuts. He's like, no, I'll be in class in the morning. He was helping me out, get ready for my fight. Right away, I was holding some pep and stuff. And it's just been really great to see that. As much as I hate that my friend had to take a loss, but it was just really fit his character to see that he's just like, okay, yeah, back to the work, and that's not the last we're going to see of John. He'll be out here, reminding all the Bellator middleweights why he was fighting for the title last fight, and he had success in the early part of the fight. And Gegard's a legend for a reason, he's super calm under fire, and then he got up and implemented his game plan, and we learned in the process. Our coach Jeff Jimmo was talking to him after the fight and picking his brain just about a couple things. And that's the other thing about being humble in defeat, was we picked up a couple things by talking to him. So all the way around, it's just he's a great leader and coach, and we're super lucky to have him. And I'm excited for what's to come for him. I'm sure it's going to be great things.
All right, well, Joe, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Have a great